Good evening, Cornerstone Nation again. How are y'all doing? Hope you're having an okay week. We're glad you came out again tonight and joining us. We're jumping back into this series later on tonight. As you might see behind me, we have a game here for those of you that might be missing your sort of March Madness fix. We wanted to kind of help with that, so we kind of brought our own little March Madness to you. So we're going to continue on in a short time with our little game that is between the middle school, the high school, the alum, the Cornerstone alum, the Cornerstoners at heart, and the parents of Cornerstoners. And right now the score is 2-2 to 1 to 0 to 0. And I'll let you know who's in the lead in a second. So get ready for that. And again, the way we're going to do that is we're going to play both games at the same time. We're going to do our scientific bracketology first, and then or we're going to kind of go back and forth between that and our little games. So since we know there's a delay, we'll be able to work with that delay and do something with the delay instead of just kind of wait around. So if you want to get ready to respond back for your team, what you need to do is have your computer ready to respond back on Facebook if you can, or your fingers ready to text back to my phone, which is, again, let's not do that with a highlighter. Let's do that with a actual erasable pen. Okay, so let's see. My number is 301 928 4620. All right, so text it back to that. If you're texting on your parents' phone, then have your name in there. Like last week, for instance, Jack came back with an answer real quick, and we thought it was his mom, but in actuality, it was him. So you can type your name first, like have your name in there first. So Jack, if it's you, just be like, just have Jack in there, and then when the question comes and you know the answer, just type in the answer and just send it as fast as you can, because whoever sends the answer back first gets the points for their team. I'm going to be trying to use this little Britney Spears mic here, and I was not built to do that. So, but we'll see how that goes. It just feels really awkward, I got to tell you. Okay. All right. So let me give you a little wrap up from last week and intro into this week while you're getting yourself ready for our game. Okay. So here we go. Last week we began our series, Come and See, Could He Be?, in which we will be considering the extraordinary claims of Christianity. And last week we started with the question, why is there stuff? This topic, of course, is enormously important to Christianity, for in the universe we either have random results of a meaningless universe, or we have a God who is setting the stage for whatever purposes he desires. Christianity requires the second, as it claims that God created the universe. And there is, of course, no Christianity without God, for its greatest claim, of course, is that Jesus is the Son of God. Our goal is not to prove Christianity is true, but to show that the evidence all along the way points clearly to it as the most logical deduction. And if it really is true, we should find this to be abundantly obvious. So when we considered why is there stuff last week, we saw that trying to take God out of the equation was highly problematic, to say the least, because there's only two options if we do take him out of the equation, and that is that either stuff always existed or stuff had a beginning. And no matter how much you try to dress up the arguments with concepts of quantum theory and string theory and inflation, which are all okay, you just can't get away from either the preposterous belief, if you hold that there is no God, that stuff in time and space is uncaused and eternal, or the silly belief that the universe came from nothing, that it brought itself into existence somehow, which is, of course, illogical. And when we now declare that the laws of physics, which is not nothing, working in time, which is not nothing, and space, which is not nothing, produced our universe, and then we say out of nothing, we are allowed to say that the emperor has no clothes, and that no matter how you try to redefine the word nothing, if you make it the cause of anything, then it's not nothing. So if you can remember sort of our takeaway from last week, then the question, but where did it come from? If you can remember just that question and just keep that in their mind, no matter what comes up regarding these things, and no matter how scientific everything gets, and you feel like you're just out of your league by miles, if you can remember the question, but where did it come from, you will be keeping the main thing, which is, of course, the main thing, isn't it? It's long overdue that we encourage others to try and defend their faith just like we have had to. All right, so that's kind of the wrap up from last week, and we're going to work into our second one in a second and go into the next installment of the series. But before we do, we're going to play a little game. All right, so the first game we're going to play is we're going to start with our bracketology here, and this is scientific bracketology. And up here we have all these scientific-y looking people, and we're going to start with these two here, and oh boy, okay, we're going to call this fellow A, and this lady B. And so you need to text back A or B as to who you think looks the most scientific-y.
Hold up, A and B.
A is this guy. B is this woman. Which one looks the most scientific-y? They both look kind of scientific-y to me. I mean, those books look pretty scientific-y, and whatever that formula is back there, that's got to be scientific-y. So which do you think is the more scientific-y looking person? Okay? By the way, at the end, we're going to ask you the question. We're gonna play the game, Pick the Theist. So you should also be thinking, like, which of these is a theist, all right? So you should be texting back either A for this guy or B, this woman, who's the most scientific-y, and we'll put them there, and we're going to work down to the most scientific-y looking person.
And what is a theist?
A theist would be a believer in God. A believer in God. Okay, so while you're doing that, now we're going to have our first question, which is this. Speaking of bracketology, 20 years ago today, or pretty close to it, Maryland just beat Connecticut to get into the Final Four for the following weekend. In the Final Four, Maryland would beat two teams to become national champions 20 years ago today. So what I want to know is, text back as fast as you can, who did Maryland beat in the Final Four? Right? The semifinals and then the finals. I need the two teams that Maryland beat to become the national champs in 2002. All right? So, sounds like we're getting answers back feverishly when it comes to who is the most scientific-y.
The first one we got from John Prince was B.
B?
B.
So,
And then we had...
but I need to know not just the first, but I need to know, do we have more B's or more A's?
I need a tally. Yeah.
We need a tally of A's versus B's.
I can count.
So if there's more A's, then the A wins. If there's more B's, the B wins. That one is not who comes back the fastest, but who thinks, how many people are more inclined to think A versus B.
B's. Okay. 3 A's. Okay, I have 7 A's.
Okay.
6, so that would be 10. Oh, 11. 11 A's.
Okay. All right. Get ready for the next. While we're tallying here and you're sending in your questions, hey, Care, I need to know something. Big bear, little bear.
How many B's did you
Okay.
11 A's. 7 B's.
Some famous scientists here. A. No, this guy was up. This guy was A. C and D. C, D. C and D. This guy may not have much behind him that looks very scientific-y, but he's kind of scientific-y. I've heard him before. He's a pretty tough debater. This guy's got a lot behind him. It shows how scientific he is. So, that speaks for itself. So, C and D. Which one is the most scientific-y looking? Did we get answers for the first question yet? Did anybody come in with any answers?
Yes. We have Indiana from Courtney Fraser was the first one.
But they need both. They need both. We need somebody. Courtney, good job. Excellent. But we need both. Both or yes?
Katie and Callie answered Kansas, Oklahoma, and Duke.
Nope, but not quite. Not quite. They beat one team in the semis and they beat one team in the championship. And so far, I've heard some teams that would fit, but we need the two answers by one person. Okay, next question. If you're working on that one, you can work on the next one. This is first one in. You may be familiar with the game Quidditch. From what I understand, Maryland has quite a Quidditch team. But there are 3 different balls used in the game of Quidditch. Can you name the 3 balls used in Quidditch? Go. And they're going to play our next installment of the most scientific-y looking person. E and F. That guy's part in his hair just screams scientist.
She's got a nice part too.
She does. But just the way she holds, there's something just about the way she holds her hand that just, to me, that's just like right on. But you got to figure that E or F. E, F, E, F. Okay.
John Prince, Indiana, Kentucky.
John, so close. Indiana, Kentucky, very close. They did beat Kentucky that year in March Madness. That was in the Sweet 16 that they took out Kentucky. They beat some amazing teams. Yeah.
Bludger, Quaffle, Snitch, Katie, Callie.
All right. We're gonna allow it, Katie, Callie. Technically, it's Golden Snitch. Everybody knows that. But yes, they got it right. What'd they say? They said Quaffle, Bludger or Budger? Bludger. It's Bludger and Golden Snitch. All right. So we know for sure middle school is on the board with 1.
So for back to that other question. question. The Kinsingers said Indiana and Kansas.
Bingo, Kinsingers. Yes, can always count on the Kinsingers. I'm assuming, and Jack did count. Yeah, okay, middle schoolers just crushed that. Okay, all right. Middle schoolers, love you guys. I'm rooting for you. Always pulling for the middle school. Though I love the high school too. Parents, you're okay in my book as well. Alum, love you, and
The golden snitch.
and you Cornerstoners at heart too. Love you guys too. All right, so we just did this. Do we have a winner for this yet?
I think it was B. Right?
No, A.
It was A. Overwhelmingly.
A, Bertrand Russell, nice job. All right, quite the scientist. All right, yeah, I gotta say, that guy really is pretty darn scientific. He would have been tough to beat, though she's the real deal. All right, what do we got? Did we have anything for a C and D?
Looks like D.
How many C's did you get?
I didn't hardly get any on here. Yeah, same. I only got
All right.
3, but I got 7.
No,
I have 7 D's.
this was a rout.
I guess I might have missed some.
This was a rout, and for good reason. I mean, just look at that picture. I mean, that's just unfair. This guy, no background. Sorry, yeah, that was just a no-brainer. Did we get anything for this one yet? Next question, by the way. All right, this is a math question for you guys, a math question. I would like you to imagine a trail around the church that is 1 mile in every direction. And you were to walk that trail, you would start the trail at one point, walk all the way around that trail, and wind up at that point again, 1 mile in every direction from the church. How far would you have walked? How far would you have walked? Now you're going, formulas, formulas. Yes, think of the right formula.
Pretty sure.
Care Bear? Did we get the
Yeah, it's
is it Big Bear, Little Bear?
great and little.
Great and little.
F's definitely one.
F.
And also, people can hear you when you're.
F. Ah, okay. F definitely won. Of course she did.
Yeah, people can hear me anyways.
Oh, I mean, of course she did. Okay. All right. Let's bring out these guys. This is like,
Also, I'm told your mom was watching.
it's like a dead heat. Hey, Mom. Good to see you out there. Dead heat. Absolute dead heat here. I mean, this is like, I flipped the coin on these two guys. I mean, this is just like pure science right here. Science just oozes through their blood. G, H, G, H. I don't know. Let you guys figure that one out. I have no idea on that one.
Angela Engel.
That's
Kyle.
a tough.
Dead.
Angela, okay, let me just, not quite.
John Pickens says 6.28 miles.
It's 6.28 miles because it's a circle, so you gotta take the radius. You gotta double the radius because the distance of that is going to be three times pi times the what? Pi times the diameter. The diameter is 2 miles. Pi times that. John, you got it, man. You got John Pickens, 6.28. And that's enough decimal points out for me, just so you know. All right, alum. 1. Nice job, alum. All right. Okay. I'm gonna give you terms of I'm gonna say two terms of something, and these things are also called 2 other things. They have 2 other names for these 2 things. They also have sometimes they're called this, sometimes they're called this, and sometimes they're called this. What I want to know is, and some of you guys will know what I'm talking about, and some of you guys won't, but sometimes they're referred to as the great bear and the little bear. And sometimes they're referred to something else and something else, and sometimes they're referred to something else and something else. Do you know what I'm referring to when I say the great bear and the little bear? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. All right, did we get...
John Crins says G looks like he needs a cheeseburger.
G looks like what?
He needs a cheeseburger.
He does need a cheese. Yeah, I agree. I agree. He could he could put on a few. Yeah, you're right, John. He could put on a few. But you got to admit, like, he oozes with science.
Yes.
So.
All right.
So what do we got there?
Overwhelming G's.
G.
And another G.
The G's one through text, not
Wow.
through Facebook.
Poor Richard Dawkins. Wow. Oh my. All right. All right. Wow. Okay. We have quite a Final Four set up. So we're going to do this again. And these now become A and B versus C and D. So guys are doing great. This is very helpful. Very, very helpful. I think the world is going to be greatly helped to know who's the most scientific-y looking, because that's sort of the one we need to listen to, if they're really scientific-y looking. A or B? A or B? This is to go to the finals, by the way, so be thinking about this. A or B? I mean, once you get to these two guys, they've had a huge influence in their teachings. But which looks the most scientific-y?
Okay.
A or B?
You want both says constellations.
Yes, John, what do we refer to those constellations at?
That was
Sharon
Brinson.
Sharon Brent?
Yeah, that
Yes.
was Michael.
Oh, Michael, never mind.
That was Big Dipper, Little Dipper.
That is one.
And then there's Spencer right after him, Ursa Major and Ursa Minor.
Okay, I wasn't as clear. So what I want, okay. All right, I'm going to give, okay, so Spencer got Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. This is where I'm going to give half points. I'm going to put the half points in blue. We're going to go, Spencer, you're still in high school. We're going to give you a half because you got half the answer, which is Ursa Major, Ursa Minor. Who got Big and Little Dipper? Who got that? Who said Big Dipper or Little Dipper?
That was Michael.
Michael.
Chu.
Michael Chu with the high school. Nice job, Michael. So,
Question as if you're going to call mathematicians scientists.
why? Oh. Do we have any mathematicians? This?
Yes, that.
This? That guy? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess. Why not? I'm sure he has a Bachelor of Science somewhere, maybe. I have a Bachelor of Science. You were looking at a scientist. That's right. All right, so that was A and B. And this is C and D. And we're about to have our final question. So the high school ended up getting both of those answers. Great Bear, Little Bear was Big Dipper and Little Dipper and Ursa Major, Ursa Minor. C and D to go to the finals. C and D. C and D. That's the best. I mean, they speak for themselves. That's all I can do with that. That's just, I mean, it says it all. Just the picture says it all. All right. This is intense. I'm feeling kind of like I did 20 years ago when Maryland was in the Final Four. I can't believe we finally gotten to this point. Do we have a winner between these two? Oh, you are kidding. You are kidding. Wow. All right. Takes out Mr. Dyson. All right. I'm sorry.
He's not the vacuum guy.
He did not. No, he did not invent the vacuum. That's right. This is Mr. Tyson. Sorry. All right. I've got a visual for you for your final question. if you were driving around and you happened to look out your window and you saw this, what state would you be in? I need the state abbreviation and the capital of that state. Both. State abbreviation and the capital of the state. No half credits this time. State abbreviation, capital of the state. Where would you be? And would you be strangely drawn here and start making this shape out of mashed potatoes? That's for any of those of you who saw Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I'd like to know if anybody got that reference.
Johnson says Matt Davidson is watching and therefore the alums went automatically.
Nat, is Nat watching? All right, so alums are our winners. Nat's watching. Good job, everybody. Thanks for playing. Nat, way to go. You won it for the alums. Nat's on. Or is that a fair standard? I don't know if that's a fair. Maybe that's not a fair standard. I have to think about that. Yes.
Katie, Callie, that's why.
And we're also looking for C and D. Did we get C and D yet?
Do you know what this is? Yeah.
Did you say W?
Wyoming.
Did you say WY?
Yeah.
WY is correct. And the capital? Did we get the capital?
I can't pronounce
Cheyenne. Yes, yes. Cheyenne. Yeah. What is that? That's. What is that? That is Cheyenne. Yes. And that again, Katie, Callie. Boom. Not sure which one. You guys want to specify, let us know. Right now we'll say Katie Callie got that one, and that is middle school again. Middle school gets 3 more points. They were in the lead before, and now they are way in the lead. Alums, you get 1 more. You were tied for the lead, but not anymore. High school, nice to see you guys on the board again with 1. So I think that might be the first time you guys got on. So you are on the board with 1. But we have this. D. Wow. All right. Very good. Believe his name is Dr. Pinker. All right. So here we go. Finals. Finals time. Finals time. Finals time. We're going to say this is A, and this is B. A and B. I think I know what you guys are going to go. I think I know who the favorite is. But I don't know. We'll see. He's mine too, probably. I got to say, he is darn scientific-y looking. I'm putting them back. I didn't say I didn't say he automatically won. I mean, that's just a sweet picture, though. Good looking fellow. All right. In a second, we cannot move on. I'm like jittery over to knowing who is the most scientifically looking person. And then the last thing I need you to do is be looking at all these people and find the theist. Which of these people up here do you think believes in God? Which is the scientist that believes in God? 1 out of 8 on this list. Man, it sounds like it's close. I'm hearing A's, I'm hearing B's. A's, A's. Oh, A's coming in strong. Oh, come on. Yeah, guys, I admit, this isn't even close. I mean, come on, let's just. Oh, wait, we got another B. B is coming back. Another B. Oh, B is making.
It's because people felt bad for the A's. Another A.
Another A.
Right.
A lot of except for Matt Brown. Matt Brown went with B.
Matt Brown went with B, yeah, okay. pretty scientific. I mean, I must admit.
Pretty sure.
Are we there? Is he pulling ahead? Is like,
I think. Oh, well, another B.
is there any possibility of?
Another A. No.
All right, all right. The lead is too great to overcome. Here is your champion right here. Take a good look. The most scientific-y looking scientist of all.
Who is he himself?
His name is Bertrand Russell. Let's put him back. We'll just kind of make him, put him right in the center.
He was a philosopher, right?
Yep. But he's pretty scientific-y as well. Nice job, everybody. We're going to keep our tally going. Now, is there anybody that wants to, we didn't really give, I didn't do a good job of being like this for A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but if you still wanted, this was A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. So if you want to pipe in on who you think the theist is.
So we got, I think Angela's saying the theist is the finalist A, and then one of them is saying it's C.
So we have one for this guy and one for this guy. Okay, so far. I'm sure we will get more. Should we jump into it? Or should we continue with Find the Theist? All right. Okay, so tell you what. Why don't you feel free to look up there. Again, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. And you can just text on in for the rest of the night.
Theist is
And
bottom left.
bottom left. I'm not sure which is that, but that would have been this guy. Tyson. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and dive into this and go ahead and tally the rest. You don't need to let me know until the end. And that will be our, we'll let you know when we get to the end what the answer was there. Should I slide this way a little bit more? Okay. All right. Okay. So this is our second installment of our series, Come and See, Could He Be? And now we're going to dive into, we're going to go ahead and dive into the second one. Before I do, I want to just mention to you guys that one of my goals in this series, as I mentioned last week, is to challenge those who are opposed to the claims of Christianity. And this can sometimes involve strongish kind of language about their ideas and even their motives in holding those ideas. But I want to be clear that our goal is to seek and proclaim the truth with the hope of winning them over and giving a counter argument to those who would follow them. So though we may strongly denounce their views as they also denounce ours, we should all do so with the hope of blessing those who hear us. And there have been many good friendships that have formed over sharp debating. If you don't care so much, you wouldn't be so passionate. And so I welcome that kind of passion and that kind of debate on both sides. Well, last week we looked at the question, why is there stuff? This week we will consider the question, why are we part of the stuff? This question is particularly important to Christianity because the Bible says we exist because God made us. Therefore, to truly understand who we are is to see ourselves in relation to God and in the context of His purpose for creating us. So though we are more than merely physical beings, God created us with bodies to function in a physical universe. Thus, the stuff we are made of has meaning with a capital M, meaning that it is not just in this world and meaning for this time. So what we need to do is ask, what does the evidence support, like we did last time? And so today we'll be considering if the stuff that exists points to a purposeful God as its creator. All right. But why, if the stuff, okay. So let me just say, by the way, that if we were to say that the stuff that existed is only an atom, if that is all that existed, just an atom or an electron or a quark, it's kind of a fun word to say, you can try that, it would not change last week's conclusion that something eternal must be the source of it. Don't forget that, because it is not hard to get caught up in scientific-y sounding arguments that get your brain swirling. You can always come back to, but where did it all come from? As you know, much more than a quark exists, and I hope you've noticed by now that life exists. Well, is that a big deal? Or is our existence just a random happenstance? A meaningless and temporary arrangement of energy and matter, just one of nearly an infinite ways in which energy and matter can exist. First, we're going to discuss this more philosophically, and then after a little bit more scientifically. So, philosophically, someone might argue that the universe, for the most part, is clearly not hospitable or suitable for it's not suitable for life. They would argue that, and I think we might agree with that. The surface of stars, black holes, the lack of water, absolute zero temperature of space. Except for this speck of life on this little third rock from the sun, the universe is vast and lifeless. It doesn't exactly scream out about a God that cares much about life, we might think. In response, we have no trouble acknowledging that the universe is quite vast, to say the least, and that it contains many amazing parts that are hostile to life. Hostile. So you guys remember we debated, what is that word, hostile or hostile? If you're a Brit, you might say hostile, I suppose, but it's hostile. We can see how someone could balk at the idea that God made the universe with us in mind. But we should be cautioned against thinking that God is compelled or required to act in ways that we expect. On the surface, he may do something that seems the opposite of what we might think he would or should do. The best example, of course, is Jesus. Though there was ample reason to believe, and we'll discuss this later, much later, I guess. There'll be ample, not today in the series, though there was ample reason to believe that he had to be the glorious divine Messiah from his miracles, his teachings, and his claims. Yet he came weak and lowly, born and raised in a peasant family. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, and nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. And by doing so, he would test and expose the true hearts of man toward God. So from looking at the universe, one may assert that there is no God or that he is indifferent toward us. However, the Bible gives a very different perspective. It tells of a great almighty God who created the universe as the setting for the drama of dramas to be played out. A good working title of this cosmic drama might be something like The Heart of God for the Heart of Man. And every part of the vast cosmos and every minutest particle has a role. And so we biblically understand that the universe in all its magnificence reveals God's glory, power, intelligence, wisdom. And we, as the highest created being made in his image, are the primary responders and observers for whom it was made. Abraham was told to count the stars and consider the nation that God would bring out of him. The Psalms state that the heavens declare the glory of God and the skies proclaim the work of his hands. To who? Who are they proclaiming it to? To us. Day after day, they pour forth speech. Night after night, they display knowledge. David says in Psalm 8, when I consider your heavens and the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars, which you have set in place, what is man that you are mindful of him? In Isaiah, God tells us that he stretches out the heavens like a canopy, and he spreads them out like a tent to live in. How very geocentric of God. And then he asks us, to whom will you compare me? Or who is my equal, says the Holy One. Lift your eyes and look to the heavens. Who created these? He who brings out the starry host one by one, calls them each by name. Because of his great power and mighty strength, not one of them is missing. And God challenges Job. He says, can you bind the chains of the Pleiades or loosen the belt of Orion? So God did not just make the universe as a place for us to live, but through it to help us in a tangible way to develop a healthy perspective of ourselves and to come to realizations about him. So far from reducing the significance of mankind, the marvel of the universe actually emphasizes it. He has made us as glorious beings with the capacity to wonder and awe at his glory. And in the universe, he pulls out all the stops and he gives us a jaw-dropping spectacle. And no matter how big our telescopes get, or how powerful our microscopes get, to this day, we continue to find much to amaze us. So now scientifically, how are we, or why are we a part of the stuff? Answering this question has become more fascinating and more so even as information comes in. Cosmologists, not cosmetologists, but cosmologists and physicists have been discovering that the universe has some very exact properties. A couple dozen or so, things like the strength of gravity, and more recently, the discovery of the very tiny cosmological constant, which acts as a sort of anti-gravity controlling the rate that the universe expands. Many of these constants don't just allow for life to exist, but they allow for galaxies and stars to exist. Each one of these properties has to be in the Goldilocks zone. Now that's a term that's used more for planets around suns. There's a, if the planet is too far out, it's too cold. If it's too close to the sun, it's too warm. So it can't be too warm, it can't be too cold. It's got to be just right. But I thought I would apply it to this as well, that these properties have to be in the Goldilocks zone. They can't be too strong or too weak. They have to be just right. And when I say just right, I mean just right. For example, two of them, we know that if they were off by 1 part in 10 to the 120, and in one case more than 10 to 120, that there could be no life. That's two of them. And the gravity, the gravitational force, if that were off by like 10 to the 36. I mean, that sounds small, or 1 part in 10 to the 30. That sounds small in comparison, but it's an incredibly small number. There could be no life, and there are many of these, and they all have to be tuned exactly right for life to exist. This poses a huge problem for those who reject the supernatural and maintain steadfastly that life on Earth was just an unguided, undetermined, meaningless blip on the screen, and that there is no reason to think that God played any role. It's very difficult for somebody to maintain that position. At least this is a big problem to that, a dilemma that has to be figured out. these findings, which some fairly recently have been mind-boggling, shocking to the scientific world to find out just how very fine-tuned our universe is, how very, 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 very small the parameters are for life to exist. And if they were off by just a little bit, and again, when I say a little bit, like one part in 10 to the 120, you couldn't have life. Life could not support it. And many on the side, even atheists, many atheist scientists have said that this is, if there was any support for the theistic view, that this is by far, for them, the strongest support for it. Well, what's the big deal? Why is that a big deal? Why is that a problem? Well, what we're saying is that the stuff that did come into existence, and we talked about that last time, why is there stuff? But now we're looking at the stuff, and we're saying that the stuff that did come into existence, it did so with extreme exact properties for life. And the likelihood of this happening by chance is remote. Now, how remote? Because you could just say, oh, well, we just got lucky. Wow, isn't it lucky that the universe just happened to be like this, because now we get to exist. Isn't that just awesome? That's just incredibly lucky of us. Well, how remote is it? Well, imagine walking the length of the Ocean City beach, and that there's one grain of sand on the whole Ocean City beach that represents the universe that would come into existence by chance that could support life. All right, so if by chance there's only one grain of sand that represents the universe that could come into being, so the likelihood of picking that one piece of sand in the whole beach, we're saying that would be like the likelihood of a universe coming into existence by chance. That would be pretty unlikely and a ridiculous coincidence to consider happening by chance. But it's much more unlikely than that. Imagine every particle, electron, neutron, and protein in your body. Imagine every single proton, like you can't even see the cells, but imagine each particle, how many there are in your body. And now imagine how many there are in this whole church. And now imagine how many there are in all of Durwood. Now expand that. We're talking every particle, electron, every single one. Now imagine all of Montgomery County. And now imagine all of Maryland. Down like a mile, let's say. Now imagine the whole United States. Every particle in the United States, including Devil's Tower that we looked at. Now imagine the whole Earth all the way down to its core. Now imagine the solar system, sun and all. And now imagine all the particles in the Milky Way. Over 100 billion stars. Now imagine that, every particle. And now I want you to add to that the Andromeda Galaxy, which is a little bit bigger than the Milky Way. And now I want you to imagine the known universe with all of its hundreds of billions of galaxies, each containing hundreds of billions of stars. The likelihood of having our universe by chance with the properties that can sustain life is less by far than the likelihood of picking one particular particle in the universe. By the way, that would be 1 part in 1 to the 81-ish. That's a mind-boggling thought. Remember, one of the constants, only one of the constants, if it was off by 1 part in 10 to the 120, you could not support life. And we have a couple that are that way. And then there are dozens of others that are into the 1 part in the 10 to the 30, 1 part in 10 to the 50. These are astronomical numbers. You can't even imagine how great they are. God did not have to make his intentionality for the universe so clear, but he did. And I think he did so in part so that in our day we would be able to see, and it would show the length in our day, because these things have been discovered more in our day. I mean, David marveled and said, as he should have, the skies, the heavens declare the glory of God. And yet in our day, these things are now being discovered that weren't known back then. And some who have come to understand these things, like to understand this, they say that this demonstrates that the universe itself is the greatest miracle of all, that God clearly had to be the one to make it, and this is the greatest evidence of that. But I think that, so why would we, so we got to ask, so why would God make it so very, very, very fine-tuned? And I think in part it would be to show the length at which humans will go to hold to their rejection of his existence. By making the parameters of life so astronomically small, we are all forced to ask, is it just a coincidence? Just dumb luck that the universe meets these exact requirements? And because it is so very small, neither side, our side, their side, neither side thinks that it just happened that way by chance. And so to our reasonable belief that the existence of stuff requiring an eternal cause, so that's what we started last week, was the reasonable belief looking at stuff needing and requiring an eternal cause. To add to that, to add to last week, we're adding this week, which we now add the logical conclusion from the extremely fine-tuned universe, is that the eternal cause of the universe obviously created stuff for the reason of supporting life. That's the obvious conclusion, the only logical conclusion that we can come to about a universe that is so finely tuned for life, and that we happen to be in that universe, is that the eternal cause of all the stuff made the stuff so that it could support life. And the very fine-tunedness of it makes that obvious. But what do those who deny this say? Well, they add to their unreasonable belief that stuff came from nothing from last week. So we are compiling onto our reasonable belief that God made the universe to support life. They are adding to their unreasonable belief from last week that stuff came from nothing. They are adding to that what they always do. They add whatever they can, whatever is the best idea at the time, no matter how illogical, so that they can maintain their denial of God. So what is the prevailing scientific explanation to this evidence of the universe that we can live in and that supports life? What is the prevailing scientific view? Well, it is, they say, that the universe only looks special. All right, and they don't deny that it looks special. It's unbelievably special in its appearance because it is so fine-tuned to life. But that is only appearance. It only looks special, like it was made for life, specifically and intentionally, but that is simply appearance. And if you knew the truth, you would realize the ignorance of that. The reality must be, they say, that there is a multiverse, a near infinite, and when they say near infinite, but not infinite, they say near infinite, which would be about 10 to the 500. There is a near infinite, 10 to the 500, they guess, amount of universes that contain random properties. And we just happen to live in a universe with properties that support life. No big deal, nothing to see here. And so we say, really, so there's a universe Well, how did it form? And the answer is, well, there must be a universe generator that spits them out, just spits out a universe and spits out another universe and spits out another universe and just keeps spitting out universes. And it just so happens that that said generator is calibrated in some way not to spit out the same kind of universe, but a random, different kind each time. Or else, you know, their theory really wouldn't work. So we say, really, there must be a generator of universes. Well, is there any proof of this multiverse or this universe generator? And the answer is usually, well, we may find it. And we're like, really? Okay, well, man, why don't we just run with this thing then? Let's just go for it. Well, and I had an original idea this week. I think it's an original idea. Maybe somebody else had it before me, and who knows who may pick up on it. But it just sounds like, man, if you can have an idea, go for it. So here's my idea. How about an even bigger generator than that? Like, how about a generator that generates universe generators? That, you know, then you could kind of like speed up the process. I mean, 10 to the 500, you know, that's like, you know, unthinkable. And so I would think a generator that generates universe generators would just be what you need. And doesn't sound like you need any proof for it. So I just thought it. And I think that's pretty much allows it to be, you know, considered pretty significantly. And since you can think it up, who's to say it's not true? And so ideas like this give a way out of having to believe in God, and that alone can make it good enough. Great effort is going to study and sell the idea of a universe. Well, why? Obviously, it's because, is it because the evidence demands it? No way. They speak of the multiverse as a foam of fine bubbles. Like, just imagine a big bubble bath or something, just these foam of bubbles everywhere, and each one being a universe. You know, and so we say, okay, well, yeah, but like, what are the bounds of each? You know, like, how are the universe, like the universe, our universe is expanding, for instance, like what are the bounds of that if they're in these little bubbles? Or so, you know, what is the shell? What is the shell of each bubble then? What is that? You know, what's that like? What's keeping that